Hey, hello everyone. The exam date is announced for the third and fourth attempt. So I know that you people are very tensed and it happened all of a sudden. But all I want to share with you is that if you are panicked, if you are thinking too much about the exam, then probably you will not be able to perform freely. And for entrance exam, it is very important that you are going to the exam hall without any fear. Yes, some calculative risk will be there, some pumping of heart will be there, but it should not be too much. You should have controlled emotion. And the best possible way to do things, to organize things at this point of time, as I've always said, that it is better not to study or not to learn anything in this particular phase. It is the phase of consolidation. So better you keep on writing the formulas, you keep on writing the formulas for 2-3 chapters at a stretch at a time, and you repeat this practice 2 to 3 times a day. And to my opinion, that is the best way you can remember the things, because most of the question in JEE main examination you will face that they are single layer questions. That means one question essentially is attached to one particular concept or one particular subtopics, which comes with one particular formula only. So if you remember that formula, you will be hit exactly the concept in the question and you will get +4. Otherwise it will be problematic if you have to think and get the idea in the exam hall. It's a very difficult thing, right? And for those students who have already got a healthy percentile, that is 99.3, 99.45 percentile plus, for me, that if you are again gagging up and giving too much importance for these two JEE main, then it is a sheer wastage of time. It is better that you just stay focused for the JEE advance. It is the best thing because JEE advance dates are not announced, and keeping the third wave in mind, it can be at any point of time, and it's better not to speculate about the timing. So for you people, I think it is better to stay focused for JEE advance, right? So yes, we have worked very hard. I can understand your situation. It's too long. The torture is going for too long. But yeah, I know that you are all champ, and definitely you will do good. There is no doubt about that. Okay, so keep it up and just enjoy the course of the game. That's it. Okay, wish you luck. So I know that all of you will do good. I have the confidence. So I think the same kind of confidence you should carry out yourself also. All the best. Hey you, welcome to all of you on your favorite channel, that is on JEE Physics Maniac. So today we are going to have a very important lesson, that is electrostatic energy. It is immensely important in terms of JEE main as well as for JEE advance. Even for NEET examination, it doesn't bear that much significance. Only few part you can drag out of it, right? So nowadays the video uploading has been a little bit bumpy ride because of my constantly deteriorating health a little bit, but hopefully that smooth ride will come very soon, and the pace of uploading will also go up, right? So without wasting much time, let us straight deep down to the lecture. So here the first thing that I am showing on the screen, you can see it is the heading is given as interactional potential energy. It's very simple. I have taken two conducting solid sphere. You can tell that these are two spherical cells also, because there is not much fundamental difference between them. So that charges Q1 and Q2, and they are being separated by a distance R. So definitely, if I think about the second conducting one, this one, its interaction with the first one, then the second one will behave like a point charge as per Shell theorem, and vice versa. If I think about the interaction of first one to the second one, then first one will behave like a point charge. So I have written here both the charge spheres behave as point charge for each other. So we know that when two point charges are interacting to each other, the mutual interactional potential energy is given by 1/4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R, right? But see, if there is an assembly of charges, so now the thing that we'll study, that if there is an assembly of charges, so what is the perspective there that I want to check? And for that I am assuming that we have a boundary, certain boundary. In that boundary we have 4 charges. Let us assume here we have Q1, Q2, Q3 and Q4, and we are assuming that these charges are being brought separately one by one from infinite. So there is a certain amount of work that needs to be done, and if they are being moved very slowly, then work done by external agent plus work done by electric field is equal to change in kinetic energy. If they are moved very slowly, it has to be equal to 0. So work done by external agent will be equal to negative of work done by electric field. So there is a conceptual understanding you can have from work, energy and power. I'm not going details into it. I'm just straight away writing that if I write what is the total amount of work that needs to be done, I have to take all the pairs. So W will be equal to, what I can write over here, I can write 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. I am taking as common within bracket for these 4 charges. I will take 1 by 1 like Q1 Q2 by R12. Next I am taking Q1 Q3 by R13. Next I am taking Q1 Q4 by R14. Next interaction with 2. So then I will write Q2 Q3 by R23 plus Q2 Q4 by R24 plus Q3 Q4 by R34. See, the major mistake that we can do here when you are writing, when you are ending up in writing these terms, for the first charge with interaction with the other is being written, the next you are writing with 2. If you write Q2 with 1, you are end up in writing the same term twice, as you can check, right? This term is already present there, so there is no need to write this term once again, correct? So there you have to be careful. So on a net, if I take it into summation, I have to write W is equal to, since we should not write every term twice, so it will be half of the original summation. So it will become 1 by 8 pi epsilon naught summation. Here I will write I equal to 1 to n, j is equal to 1 to n, and obviously I is not equal to j, mind it, and qy qj by rij. So that is a common expression that we can drag from here. So this is the amount of work which is required to assemble a number of diffuse charges from infinity, right? So let's proceed. Here we will talk about another form of energy which is called electrostatic field energy. What exactly we mean by this? I have taken two plane sheet over here. One is having plus sigma, other is having the minus sigma charge distribution, and they are having uniform, for which the field line representation I have drawn over here. And regarding this topic I have already discussed previously, so there is nothing much to discuss. You can see on the leftmost region electric field is 0, on the rightmost region electric field is also equal to 0. Only in between these two plates we can see electric field exists, that is sigma by epsilon naught. So we can say that as if the field is restricted between these two charge plates, and later on we will see that capacitance is formed only due to the charges residing on the inner surface of a plate. Anyway, so if I think about this restricted field, since it is non-zero, so there will be some kind of energy associated with this so-called restricted field, and that energy we will call it field energy. So for the continuous charge distribution, field energy is being defined as U is equal to integration of V dq. So on the next slide onwards, we will have the refined study regarding this particular thing. Let's move ahead. So here you see that I am writing U is equal to half V into dq. As you can remember, this half factor I have already explained how it is coming over here, right? Now, so V dq can be written as rho V dV. Now here you have to be little bit careful that see this volume over here, this V term is basically volume element. So please be careful, this dV here is the volume element. Don't get confused between these two terms, and this V term over here is basically potential. So there is a difference. Do not confuse in between them. Then directly we can write du dv is equal to half epsilon naught into E square. Actually how this derivation is coming is not part of our study, so we will not talk much detail about it. So du is equal to half epsilon naught into E square dv. So this du dv, this particular term is called field energy density, okay, or precisely saying electrostatic field energy density. How much it is coming? Half epsilon naught into E square. So if I have to calculate total energy, then I have to integrate over this term throughout the space. I have written all space. Why I have written all space? Because either the contemporary element, it can be volume element, it can be a line element, or it can be an areal distribution. So for each one, if it is a volume element, I have to integrate over the volume. If it is a line element, I have to integrate over the line segment. If it is an area, I have to integrate over the elemental area. Right? Okay. So for the line element and surface element, it is written as epsilon naught by 2 lambda v dl, and for the surface, it is epsilon naught by 2 sigma v dA. Again, here dl is the line element and dA is the surface element. V in both these equations is playing the role of potential. All right, let's move ahead. Here now we are going to study a very interesting concept, that is the concept of self energy, and I have defined, because the definition is missing in most of the books, so you can read the definition from here. That what is self energy? Self energy, basically it is the amount of work required to bring in, the diffused charges or elemental charges from infinity to form a charged body. If I have to define this self energy for gravitation, I will say that it is the amount of work required to bring in the diffused masses from infinity to form a body. Correct? So here from infinite distance we are bringing charges one by one. As you can see, I am bringing charges dq one by one, dq, and once all these charges are being brought from infinity, slowly and gradually the size of this sphere is increasing, and ultimately we are able to form a charged sphere. So this amount of work required to be done is known as self energy. All right, fine. So next we will calculate self energy for a non-conducting solid sphere, or rather how much work is required to form a non-conducting solid sphere by taking those diffuse charges from infinity. Now here you have to be a little bit careful. See, for a non-conducting solid sphere, electric field is present on the outside boundary. E outside is not equal to 0, as well as E inside is also not equal to 0. Try to understand. So that means there will be an energy associated to the electric field present in the inside surface, and there will be energy associated with the electric field present outside the non-conducting solid sphere. So I will just go by the definition. First, I am interested to calculate what is happening inside. So this calculation I am doing only for inside boundary. So du is equal to energy density in the shell into volume element. We know that is half epsilon naught E square into dV. This is the formula. dV is the element, this element. I am taking an element at a distance smaller from the center, and the thickness I am taking it to be dr. So after setting this integration, dV is 4 pi r square dr. If I substitute the value of E, we know that E inside is given as basically kqr by r cube, where k is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. So this result comes. This is the value of E inside. If I substitute in the equation, so after rearrangement, the term will come q square by 8 pi epsilon naught r to the power 6 capital R, integration 0 to r. Why I am taking 0 to r? Because I am interested initially on the inside, r to the power 4 dr. Finally, the result comes, it comes to be q square by 40 pi epsilon naught r. All right. So this is the energy that is stored inside the solid sphere, and there is a field outside also. So for that, how much energy will be there? Now I am calculating. This is for outside region. For outside region, the solid sphere here, whether it is non-conducting or conducting, it will behave like a point charge as per shell theorem. It will behave like a point charge. So for a point charge, we know it is q by 4 pi epsilon naught r square, correct? And then again the same integration. Now the integration limit will be from here. I will take the surface. From here, I will integrate up to infinity. That is the outer space. So outer space is theoretically bound from surface to infinity. Why? Because here you can see that E out I am writing kq by r square. So at r tends to infinity only, E will be tending to 0. So that is why the outside region is theoretically extending from surface to infinity. So if I integrate this particular result, I will get q square by 8 pi epsilon naught r. So earlier we got energy inside, now we got energy outside. So if I say total self energy it will be the algebraic sum of these two energies, and ultimately this term is very, very important for us. We have to remember for exam. So U total becomes 3 by 5 into Q square by 4 pi epsilon naught capital R. And this is a small result that you can remember, that U outside in case of non-conducting solid sphere is equal to 5 of U inside. So where the maximum amount of energy is stored, is it inside or outside? It is outside actually. Okay, right, move on. Next thing here is the self energy for conducting solid sphere. Now after doing the derivation of non-conducting solid sphere, I can readily write that since electric field at inside point is equal to 0 for conducting solid sphere, we know why, because Q inside is equal to 0. Charge cannot exist. So if E inside equal to 0, there will be no energy associated to that also. So U inside will be equal to 0. So where for conducting solid sphere energy will be stored? On the outside region. How much? So when we are thinking about the outside region, for outside region there is virtually no difference fundamentally between a non-conducting solid sphere and a conducting solid sphere. Why? Because both of them will behave like a point charge, and I have just calculated the value. It is coming to be Q square by 8 pi epsilon naught R, and this is the self energy for conducting solid sphere. So again I am just repeating quickly. For non-conducting solid sphere, inside energy is Q square by 40 pi epsilon naught R. Outside it is coming to be Q square by 8 pi epsilon naught R. Total it comes to be 3 by 5 or 3 by 20 Q square by pi epsilon naught R. For conducting solid sphere, since there is no charge present in the inside boundary, so field is 0. As a result, we know that du is equal to, we have written how much, half epsilon naught E square into dV. So if E is 0, the entire term is 0. So only energy is present outside. For outside we have already calculated, the result is Q square by 8 pi epsilon naught R. Alright, let us quickly see an example. Here we have two sphere here. One is the non-conducting solid sphere on the left side. On the right side we have taken a conducting solid sphere. As you can see, it being a non-conducting solid sphere, charges are there inside. For this one it is a conducting solid sphere, so charges are on the outside. The task is we have to find out total energy of the system. Remember, whenever they are asking total energy is basically, it has two parts. What are the two parts? One is the interactional energy and the other part is basically self energy, right? So two parts are there. So if I think about the interactional potential energy, it will be very simple. So that is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R, right? It is a minus, so I can take a minus sign over here, but I'm just thinking about the magnitude. So let's proceed. Plus, now we have to think about the self energy. So when we are thinking about the self energy, the left side is basically non-conducting solid sphere. So for this, what is the term? 3 Q1 square divided by 20 pi epsilon naught into R1. That is the self energy of the left one, plus the self energy of the right one. How much? It will be Q2 square divided by 8 pi epsilon naught R2. So this entire term will now represent the total energy of the system. So in such a way, any combination can be given, whether it is conducting, non-conducting, or both are conducting, both are non-conducting. We can easily solve such question if you have the concept. Otherwise, if you try to calculate from the fundamental origin, it will be extremely difficult and lengthy. You will waste a lot of time in the exam, hence you will not come out as victorious. So you have to be a little bit careful in remembering the concept that I have taught over here. I hope you have enjoyed, and if you have enjoyed the lecture, my earnest request to all of you, please feel free to come out with suggestion. Do like, subscribe and share. Thank you.